So this is lesson number 80, Algebra 2. Direct variation is a ratio and inverse variation is a ratio. And way back in lesson 60 we did direct variation and inverse variation. And if you recall, we did direct variation as x equals k y, or any letter equals k times any letter. And first step was to find out the equation that you were going to use, and then the next step was to find k, and then the last step was to put what you got for k in the rest of the problem in finding the answer. So let's look at one of these real quick of what we did prior. Example 80.1, a varies directly as b. A varies directly as b. Okay. If a is 50, when b is 5, what is the value of a when b is 7? Alright, so we're just going to take the first part of that and find k. So we find out k is 10. So now our equation no longer looks like that, it looks like this. A equals 10 times b. Alright, now we look at the next part of the equation, and it says, what is the value of a when b is 7? So a is 70 when b is 7. Okay? Now that's the way we did it in lesson 60. There's another way to look at this. So rather than writing it this way, we can write it also as a ratio. A1 over A2. Okay? And then all we do is plug the numbers in. Now if you look at the problem, how many numbers are you given? You're given a 50, a 5, and a 7 in the problem. So that means you're only missing one. So if we just plug the numbers in the right place there, cross multiply, we can find the answer pretty easy. So let's look at this. A1, it says if A is 50, we'll use that as our A1. Our B is 5. So we use that as B1 because it says when A is 50, B is 5. So they're using a comparison there of the 50 to the 5. So we're going to use the A1 and the B1, and that will always be the case. You would use the 1 as your A and your B as the numbers they gave you first. Then the numbers they gave you second. What is the value of A when B is 7? So these are the second numbers. You cross multiply and you get 5a equals 350. Divide by 5, and you get your a equal to 70. Same answer. Okay, so notice in the formula my a's are on the left, my b's are on the right, and I have a 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so if you know that, you don't have any problem with the direct variations here. Okay, so let's look at example 80.2 using this exact method. And it says cost varies directly as the number purchased. Cost varies directly as the number purchased. We use C for cost and N for number instead of A and B. Alright, let's go ahead and write the ratio. Well, let's do it both ways. So we're going to find our k first. 12 for 78. So 12 would be our number, and $78 would be our cost, and that would give me a ratio, or a k, of 6.5. So now my formula looks like this. And it says, how much would 42 cost? 42 is my number. So I'd multiply 6.5 times 42, and I get $273. Alright, let's use the ratio way. C1 over C2 equals N1 over N2. Alright, so my C1 is going to be my, let's see, $78. And I'm looking for C2. And what's the number that relates to the $78? The number that relates to that is 12. And my N2 would be 42. And then I'll just do my cross multiplication. 78 times 42 right here, divide it by 12, and my cost is $273. Okay, so that's direct variation. Let's look at the second part of this, and this is inverse variation. So direct variation was A equals K times B. Inverse variation, if you remember, is A equals K over B. So this is direct, and this is inverse. And when we did ratios, it was A1 over A2 equals B1 over B2. And notice when we did ratios, we did not have to find our K. We just skipped it and put in the three numbers that they gave us in the problem, cross-multiplied to find the fourth one. Alright, so inverse variation, the problem is going to look like this. A1 over A2, just like this one was, but inverse means we're going to take our other one and flip it over. It's the only thing we're going to do. So the only difference between inverse and direct is B1 over B2, B2 over B1. That's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at 80.3. Blue varies inversely as yellows, so we're going to use these formulas. If 100 blues go with 2 yellows, how many blues go with 10 yellows? Alright, so let's write the equation. Blue varies inversely as yellows squared. So there's my formula. So let's go ahead and start plugging some numbers in. We're going to find K first. So we're using this formula first, and then we'll use the ratio here the second time. Alright, so we have B, 100 equals K over yellows, and remember it's squared. So K then equals 400. So now we're going to rewrite this equation as B equals 400 over y squared. So this is my equation in order to solve what they're asking. How many blues go with 10 yellows? So we're still looking for blues, but we have 10 yellows, and we'll square that. So go ahead and solve that, and you'll end up with B equals 4. Alright, so let's look at the ratio method of doing it. And I think some of you will like doing the ratio method better because there just doesn't seem to be as much work involved. Alright, so A1, in fact, we're going to change it to blues and yellows. So we've got B1 over B2 equals yellow 2 over yellow 1. So there's our formula, but remember our yellows are squared. Okay, so we have to square those. That's what this number right here is if it does say squared, we need to put a squared on the y. So we've got a 1 and a 2 just like we did up here, only it's yellows squared for this particular problem. Alright, so let's plug in some numbers. 100 is our blue. Our second B is what we're looking for. And we have how many yellows? 10. That's our y2, and it's squared over. And our y1 is 2, and that's squared. So this is going to be, let's do it over here on the left, 100 over b2 equals 100 over 4. So we have 400 equals 100 b2 2. So divide by 4, or 100, divide by 100, and again your b is 4, like we got last time. So the key thing with these is if it says that it varies inversely as yellow's squared, you have to remember to put the squared up there. If it said it varies directly as b squared, you'd have to put a square on each of these. Okay, so don't forget to do that if it says anything as far as something squared, such as practice B. Blue varies inversely as yellow's squared. So it's exactly like we just did. Let's see if there's any more in here. Number 2 is that way. I think that's the only ones they give you in this lesson. For lesson 80, yeah. So that's it for lesson number 80.